Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lauren House and I am the hostess of Beyond the House. We are here on the social Nostra network and I have Daniela Garcia with me today. And I'm really excited to introduce her because she is the CEO of Pod Booking. And this is her new invention and idea to connect podcasters. And I'm going to give her the floor so she can continue talking about it because it's a brilliant idea and it's going to take off. And she's been working relentlessly for weeks on this idea. So that's why we are so excited to have her here today. So we also want to include this as a women empowerment, that when you have a new idea and you have this seed planted in you that you just have to go after, we have a great example of just following your dreams and not caring how you get there and going for it and falling down, getting up and learning all about it on the way. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. This is so exciting.
Yeah, you have so much fire and passion when you speak about this. So you want to give us a little background on what pod booking is and how you came up with this brilliant idea?
Yeah, definitely. So Pod Booking is a soon to launch social network, and it'll be connecting podcasters with pretty much all of the collaborators that it takes to make an awesome podcast. So that's going to be experts and specialists within your niche that you want to interview and you have guests on your show. That's going to be advertisers and sponsors that you're trying to attract and have, just know that you exist and that you're targeting the same demographic that they are. And right now, as it stands, it's really difficult for everybody to kind of find each other because there isn't like a single place that you can go and find podcasters. And sure, you could go on all the different streaming services, but they're really going to be highlighting and advertising those bigger shows that have already been established and already have sponsors and already have advertisers and already know all the amazing guests and specialists. And so this is really going to help really the newer podcasts as well as those like in transition. I call them the sweet spot of like 3,000 to 5,000 viewers and listeners. They tend to have really awesome engagement with their following and yet can't seem to attract sponsors as easily and are struggling to find interesting guests. So I definitely think that we're bridging a huge gap here and filling a huge hole in the community that is just necessary. And I'm really excited about it, and I hope everybody else is too.
Yeah, it sounds like this is the platform that those who are maybe on the brink of success could capitalize on, just immerse themselves in this. So you have to have you want to tell us, like, do you have to have an account? Do you have to sign up? Is there a fee? We can kind of go over that so people have a better understanding of how it works if they're interested in pod booking, which by the way, they do have an Instagram and we would like you to follow them if you're interested. Yes. So that will be below here. So you want to give us a little background or a little knowledge on how people can go about being a part of pod booking?
Absolutely. So currently we have our waitlist live and we are looking for beta testers. Once we are launched, however, it's going to be totally free to join, but everyone will be making their own profile. We are integrated with a few other platforms like Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So you could just like sign in or sign up using your existing profiles. But you will still have certain things you have to fill out, like our profile survey. And with that, we're going to learn a little bit more about like your niche, who you're trying to attract, who's your target demographic, what are the specific like interests and topics you like to cover in your show, who is it that you're looking for that you want to speak to, what's like, we also want to create kind of like what is your ideal guest or who is your ideal guest. And then on top of that also, then it's going to go into sponsors and like who are you interested in working with, what are like your dream brands, who are your dream partners, and what do you have kind of in common with those sponsors in terms of demographics, in terms of messaging, branding, all of those different kinds of things. And that's all just going to help bring it together so that our algorithm can connect people who are specifically relevant to each other, so we can get the most amount of collaboration out of our platform as well as just the most amount of elevation. If we can have, we're only going to be as successful as our members are. And so it's really important that everybody on the platform gains a lot out of being a part of it.
That sounds really cool. It's such a unique idea, because I think that there are podcasters who hit a certain point and they're kind of like, how do I get bigger? How do I continue to grow my audience?
How do I get to that next level?
Right. And you look at the people who are super successful, who have the spotlight on them, and they're thinking, how do I get there? What do I do? And they know how they got there, but maybe not everybody's as forthcoming with their secrets of how they arrived at where they are. Maybe they had a helping hand. Maybe they just got lucky. I mean, I'm sure there's 1,000 ways you could get there.
There's also a lot of people who were just on the train early enough of podcasting, and have just had their shows for 5-10 years and have these dedicated followings that have been growing with them. And now, especially with the pandemic, you've had so many new podcasts popping up, and they're all unique in their own ways, and they all deserve that same platform and just attention. And so I really hope pod booking is the answer to this very serious issue.
No, and that's why I want to get this out there, because I think it will be so helpful to those who they're diehard podcasters and they want to bring their value to the world, and maybe they just don't have enough eyes on them. So I'm very excited for this. I think it will be great. And with this being said, were you in tech before? Is this something that's new for you?
Yeah, no, I am a pandemic transplant from the beauty industry into the software world. And so the last 3 years of my life, I've been working in like the beauty industry on like the wholesale side of beauty cosmetics and just getting them into retailers and stuff. So I had a little bit of experience in that end of looking for podcasts to want to advertise and promote my brand on, and not being able to find shows that were within my sweet spot of the budget that we had for marketing, as well as just the kind of exposure and demographics we were looking for. So I've kind of experienced this frustration on different levels. And then
that's where ideas come from, right? Somebody needs it, and that's where it's born.
When you hit the same brick wall enough times, you finally realize we need to do something about this wall.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That just like totally came first full circle for me. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm so glad. No, and then what happened was during the pandemic, everything happened. I had to kind of pivot into something new. I ended up moving into a software company, and now I'm exposed to all these different resources and all these new different terms in the technological world that I had no idea about before. And now it's like, wait, I can use this. I can do this. And then a few weeks ago, it just clicked for me. And I just realized, hold on, I can take the knowledge that I have over here, take it to the frustration that I have over here, and fix it.
Yes, you have a solution.
Yeah, it's cool.
While you're not from a totally tech world, how did you, and are you, because I know this is a very current thing for you, how are you getting out of your comfort zone? How are you making sure that you are limitless through this? Because I know that when I'm trying to grow, whether it's my business, my brand, as a person, I find those milestones and I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do anymore, but you have to keep pushing yourself because you're constantly trying to find the right way, whatever that means. And I'm sure you've had successes and failures, like even on a small scale along the way.
Yeah, we have been really fortunate that the community is just so open to this and is really welcoming to this. And I've gotten messages into our DMs that have made me literally just start crying. And my husband's like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's just, I'm going to help so many people.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, when I first had the idea, I was like, this is my $1 billion idea. Totally. And then now I'm like in it and I'm talking to these amazing people and I see all the work that people are putting into their Instagram, their branding, into their shows, the sound effects, the production. There's just so much going into it that I'm like, man, people are putting forth all this effort. I know, because I'm doing it myself now to promote pod booking. And if it doesn't amount to something, it's so bitter because you're just putting your heart and soul into these shows and everything around them. So the fact that I'm doing something that's going to help so many people come together, make their dreams come true, make their voices heard, get messages across, like so many different projects across social justice, women empowerment, motivation, entrepreneurship, like just so many different movements through podcasts are being grown right now that I am hoping will be catapulted on this platform that I'm building. And so anytime I'm exhausted, anytime I'm thinking, but nobody's going to want to do this, or it's not going to go anywhere, I just go through my DMs. I go through and I look at how much growth we've had in the little bit of time we've been in existence. And I just think, no, I've got something. People need this. It's beyond me. It's beyond my sleeping hours.
Yes, that I've heard are few and far
scarce.
Yes. I mean, it's so inspirational. You're actually writing your own story right now and your own woman empowerment story. And I'm excited to see where this goes and how big it becomes, because it does seem like there's a huge need for it, which is incredible.
Yeah, no, the numbers are there. There's over 1 million podcasters and hundreds of millions of podcast listeners. Like just in the US alone, we're talking about 155 million podcast listeners.
Ooh.
That's in the US alone.
That's a lot.
It's huge. The demand for the content, the demand for these collaborations is what's so massive. And
finding that podcasters want to join and collaborate with other podcasters.
Yeah, a lot of them who are like, everybody kind of wants to level up somehow. And so you level up, especially in social networking, you level up by being introduced to another person's following. Correct. So if two podcasters collaborate and they have a similar show, it could be like, hey, I'm on at 6, you're on at 7, or my podcast goes out at 7. Like, let's kind of link up and promote each other. And it's just like TV shows. They did the same thing. You would have the hit show and then the new show would come on right after it. Because it's like, let's get people jumping on this one. And so, there's tons of space and need for podcasters to work together too.
That's actually really cool. Because I guess you kind of think from someone who I'm not some massive podcaster, you kind of look at the people who have made it and you feel like, oh, like they're good. Like they probably are busy and they don't have a huge need or desire even to continue to be featured on people's podcasts.
Shows.
But I would think that, like you said, like the more exposure, the better. And maybe this is a silly analogy, but it's kind of like Taylor Swift. Like she's just like taking over every genre,
She is.
And now she just keeps collecting more and more fans because she's got the balls, the courage to like go and jump from genre to genre and try it and see who's going to jump on board.
I'm trying to find a way so that I could be a relevant guest on true crime, because I just know that the market's there and I have nothing to provide them.
Maybe just an advertisement. Maybe we just start there.
It's going to have to come down to that, because I'm not versatile like T Swift. T Swift could figure out a way to get into true crime. Like I know she could.
Oh, totally. She totally could. That's funny. So I guess a big question is, when you're feeling overwhelmed and a little sleep deprived, how are you staying on track? Like do you set mini goals? I know for me, like small building blocks are usually how I try to get places. And you have your days where you just feel totally defeated. And then you have your days where it's like, oh my gosh, it's 10 a.m. and I've already like conquered the day. And I'm sure learning a new industry, how are you going about this?
Piece by piece. And so my family is like this really great inspiration. I think a lot of people feel the way about their families. You just kind of look at your own personal history and feel inspired by it. And my great grandmother was an extremely successful woman. My family originates in Cuba, and my great grandmother, she ended up owning up to, I think it was about 17% of the total island. And she literally bought it acre by acre. Like she just bought it piece by piece by piece, little by little. As her business grew, everything else grew. And so I've always been really inspired by that tenacity and that approach to things of just focus on the next step. You don't have to be ready for the entire journey. You just need to be ready for the next step. and just focus on that. And then as you prepare for that next step, that's going to give you the tools, the skills, the knowledge to take the one after that and the one after that. And it's so true, like throughout this whole process, like, what do I know about starting a social network? Nothing. I knew nothing. I know so much more now, 3 weeks later than I did then. I know so much more now today than I did when I started. And it's solely because I did not allow what I didn't know to stop me from what I could achieve. And neither did my great-grandmother. She ended up becoming a dairy farmer, knew nothing about cows, didn't matter. It was something that she was setting her mind to. She ended up being the dairy provider, like the milk provider to the Hershey Company during World War II. Wow. Ended up becoming the third richest woman in Cuba. Like, just a total boss. And she did it step by step. She didn't try to start big. She didn't try to learn everything first and then get started. She learned as she went, and it paid off. And I'm hoping that I can say that it's just a family trait, that it's going to pay off.
Just in genes.
I'm really hoping history is going to repeat itself.
Yes. I mean, it sounds like that's all you can do, especially with the tech industry. Like selling residential real estate, I could just jump into selling $5 million homes and just move forward like that, because I can put myself in a position to only sell high luxury homes.
Right.
When it comes to technology, I don't think you can just go from A to Z. Like, you have to build those blocks and buy it acre by acre in order to get where you want to go. Because I don't think that you could, for example, you wouldn't be able to put content if you have on the internet if you haven't purchased the domain. So yours is almost forcing you, I would think, to do building blocks.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. And I'm sure, like you said, in the short 3 weeks, you have seen, learned, stumbled, like already. I'm sure you feel very successful to some point, even though it's just the beginning.
I feel the fact that it's just the beginning is what has been making me feel the most successful, if that makes sense. Like, I just look at it and I'm like, you know what? This is only the beginning, and it feels this good, and it's grown this much, and it's doing this well. And you don't even have a platform out yet. You just have the concept. You just have the word of it at this point, And so that's what I think that excites me more than anything else. I think once everything is out, said and done, and it already is, like pod booking, everybody knows what it is, I think I'll actually feel less successful. I'll be like, okay, well, now it's just whatever. It's out there. Before it was like
part of life. Yes.
Yeah. You'll get used to it.
It sounds like you like the adventure of the challenge, which is, you have to have that spirit if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you don't have a choice. You have to want to not sleep and want to put your heart and soul into it, and just.
Who doesn't love the beginning of a relationship?
This does. And I was going to say, pod booking almost sounds like dating a little bit, like a virtual dating app for technology and businesses instead of for people.
I definitely, when I was first thinking of it, I thought of maybe making it kind of like a Tinder where people would just like swipe on things. Okay. And then I was like, that's not collaborative enough. I wanted public forums, and I also wanted pod booking to be able to make content as well that could kind of drive some conversations.
Okay.
So, we'll be making a lot of content too, and like tips and tricks on podcasting and starting out and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be definitely a good force or just a good supplier of interesting conversation too, which I think is important for a host. It's like a party.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's a whole lot of questions that, I've been to seminars on podcasting, how to start, where to start, how to get it onto YouTube, how to get it onto other platforms. I mean, it's a whole world, because when you go onto YouTube, which is where I watch most of my podcasts, if that's what you want to call them, they make it look so easy.
Yes.
And there's things that you don't even think about that need to be included, like you said, like audio, visual, sound is audio, content. Like, there's so many things that need
design.
Yes, and
then the marketing at the end of it all, you've got marketing, SEO, pay-per-clicks, like ads on Facebook, Instagram, engaging with your listeners when somebody comments, responding to it, like all of these. It's so many tasks that I feel like absolutely any platform or product or service that aims to streamline any step of it is going to be successful.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a lot.
So your Instagram name is at Pod Booking?
Yes.
No numbers, no period.
No, we were able to get the Instagram.
That's
Yes.
awesome. That is awesome. And then are you hashtag Pod Booking as well?
Yes.
Or do you have like a key catchphrase?
We are hashtag pod booking. We're also doing hashtag podcasters uniting.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that. Okay, that's good to know. I will start using that when I promote my own stuff, and I will also be going to follow Pod Booking. I have yet to do that, but I will do that. And then any other tips or advice you have for, I mean, any entrepreneurs, but for females? I mean, I know in tech is like a really highly male industry, so I don't know if that played a role at all in your desire or like maybe hesitation to move forward with this because it is such a male dominated industry.
I definitely always just like had an interest in getting into computers and coding and all those kinds of things, and I didn't before because I just did not know where to start. And so, and then anytime I went to any of my friends who happened to be males who knew all these things, like they didn't know where to start either to like teach me. And so I guess like the biggest advice I'd give to anybody who wants to get into any kind of like a technological kind of world and is interested in tech, like especially, pick a project. Like pick one goal that you have in mind, like one website you want to build, if it's a blog, if it's a social network, if it's an app even, or just whatever it is that you want to do, like have that project in mind so that you can have a really clear roadmap of where you're starting, the tools and resources you're going to use, and just gives you a sense of direction. Because as you go through the steps of building something in the tech, like you're going to end up getting exposed to all of the other things that you're going to ultimately want to learn. So that sense of direction handed with a why, you know, ultimately once it's done, you're going to have this awesome project that you're working towards. Like it's just all going to make the process easier and just more focused.
So it sounds like you just have to throw yourself into it.
100%. Like, c'est la vie, my friends. Throw yourself into everything and do not be afraid of failure. What is failure? It's just this thing. It's just this really cool story you get to share on interviews later. Like
rejection is redirection. And that's something that I've had to learn. And rejection obviously comes in many forms, but the redirection part is the key, because you might feel like, okay, I let these people down. I wanted to take this route. This is how I planned on getting to my goal. And then in the end, you end up realizing maybe that was a blessing in disguise because something bigger and better came along, or I learned something that I didn't know before. I mean,
or you're preparing for something. You're also preparing for something you don't know that you're preparing for yet. I had no idea that I was going to create pod booking 5 years ago. And yet things that I learned 5 years ago, I'm using now. They shaped me for this. They prepared me for this moment. You know, I think back to my time in school learning about marketing. I didn't think I was going to create a social network. I didn't think I was going to need to know about social media engagement for my own company. You know what I mean? But now here I am and I'm like, man, realistically, the last 25 years of my life have been preparing me for this moment. And I didn't even realize it until I was here. And then I'm utilizing all these skills that I've been collecting from failures and from successes. And I needed them all. Yep. So you might see it. Pardon?
Go ahead.
No, it's just you might see something now as this astronomical failure that later on is going to be the foundation of the skills and knowledge you need for your biggest success yet.
Yes, very well said. And the only thing that can help with that is time.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only way you're going to ever know. Like you said, it's not hindsight until you're sitting here using those skills that you learned 5 years ago. And you're like, I never would have known that this was going to be contributing to my best idea I've ever had.
Definitely. And quite frankly, probably the biggest thing I'm going to do. So
I know. I'm really excited for you. You are such an inspiration right now, just listening to, and like I said, the excitement that you ooze and the passion and how much you like putting into this project. I mean, I'm sure you have a timeline. I'm sure you have your goals that you need to to meet in order to get it off the ground. So we are both available. If anybody has questions about entrepreneurship, if you have any questions about pod booking, Daniela is available. The pod booking Instagram will be below. So feel free to reach out to her. She's very responsive. I can tell you from experience, she responds pretty much right back, which is very appreciated. Anything else we need to touch on? Do you know when it's going to launch?
Our waitlist is live, has been live for a little while now, but we are definitely still looking for some beta testers, just because it's not about just like the first 50 people who sign up. It has to be people who would be compatible and collaborative. So if you are interested in potentially being selected to be a beta tester, or if you just want to get email updates and stay up to date with when things are finally launched and things are, rolling, definitely head over to pod-booking.com and sign up for the waitlist. That link is also in the Instagram bio. So if you just go to @podbooking, it's in the link. So yeah.
Perfect. So lots of ways to get a hold of you.
Oh, we are accessible.
As you should be. We're a social media.
We're getting carrier pigeons next week, Lauren. I mean, everyone's going to be able to reach us.
I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
So, thank you for sharing your story. I hope that everybody learned something from this, because she is an inspiration starting this really out of nowhere in the last few weeks. And if she can come up with this brilliant idea and turn it into something which is probably going to be gold, I don't see why anybody else cannot do the same thing. So again, if you have any questions about the entrepreneurial side or how to be a part of pod booking, let Daniela know. Again, it's @podbooking. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it too. This has been fun.
Yes, absolutely. I will talk to you soon. And thank you again for joining me, Lauren House, on Beyond the House at Social Nostra. Thank you.